Well, hello, folks. Happy Wednesday. While I'm waiting on parts, I thought I'd kind of discuss, I think I've discussed this before, but kind of update you a little bit on my test stand. And really what I want to talk about is a test stand versus a dyno. So I've had this test stand, I bet probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 years now. Maybe longer than that, maybe 8 years. It is an easy run, custom series test stand. So the reason why I bought this test stand is we do a lot of engine builds for customers. And when I say the engine builds, we're doing mostly engines like this Pontiac 350 stroker here for Glenn. We're waiting on the EFI system to come in. But these engines here basically for customers that have cars that are not being drag raced, they're street cars and they're cruisers. They just want a really good running engine to stick in their classic muscle car. So I built quite a few engines, but troubleshooting them and doing a lot of things, getting them tuned and set up after they're in the car, especially a painted car, is really counterproductive. For some reason, we would always get a car that had already been painted and had been basically restored. And then they come to find out, well, the engine really is tired and it needs to be overhauled, replaced. So after so many engine builds and having to really basically, put towel, we still put, all of our blankets and everything over fenders and whatnot when we do these things. But the best thing to do is to do a dyno. Now this is the second best thing to do, which is a test stand. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and talk about the test stand versus the dyno. With the test stand, we can go ahead and check all of our mechanical integrity. In other words, the engine's going to freewheel. It's not going to be loaded, but we can test for oil leaks. We can test for valves that are sticking, sitting there running. We can break in cams, flat tappet cams. A lot of things can be done on this thing. You can dial in your carburetor for at least not a wide open run, like you would on a dyno, but you can set your basic idle mixture screws. There's a lot of things that you can do. You check for vacuum leaks. Basically, everything you can do short of that engine being loaded and knowing what to do or know what kind of engine power it's going to make on the dyno. So this thing has been invaluable with that. Now I don't have it finished, but I did add an AFR gauge, and all that's going to really do is help me with the idle. So when you do a carbureted engine, I can still kind of dial it in. This is basically, I've got two O2 sensors, so I can check both banks. So I need to finish that up, but there's some things I had to kind of rob off of this to test another fuel injection system, but I've got those over there. I'll put the fuel injection pump on. So this engine I can run fuel injection or a carbureted setup. So with this Pontiac 350, for instance, this is going to get a Holley Sniper, and I've already got an external regulator on the test stand. I've got everything I need to pretty much test this thing. But I'm not going to know what kind of horsepower this thing's going to make fully loaded down. And the same thing goes for my Gen 3 Hemi. This will be a little more difficult. Not necessarily difficult, but it'll be my first time running basically a multi-port fuel injection system on the test stand. I'll have to, set up something to hold the terminator and whatnot. But I digress. So, really, I guess when you go into the benefits, let's talk about the dyno. Now, the cost of a dyno is going to be probably just for the dyno itself, or like a Superflow. I've priced them, and you're looking, I think, at like $30,000 to $40,000 for that. And then by the time you buy all the ancillary equipment that goes with that, it's probably more like $50,000. That's for the dyno and all the equipment. Controls and water brake and everything for that. Now, that's not counting the building or the real estate by which it needs to go into. So when I bought this place, we moved from Texas to a rural area up here in Oklahoma. But, you know, at first I thought, well, I'll be able to build a dyno, you know, inside that shop I've got up there. However, really, I'm in a rural area, but I do still have neighbors. And if I were to run in a lot of these neighbors have cows, have livestock. So if I were to run engines, you know, running with a dyno, going wide open, as everybody knows, they are pretty loud. So I'm sure, although I'm in the county, that I would have some complaints. And to be honest with you, I don't want to make enemies in somewhere I just moved down to. So really, when I started thinking this over, you know, I thought, do I really have the revenue? This is not my full-time job. And to lease basically an industrial type of building would be somewhat expensive to do. You know, it's not going to yield a profit. I'm going to be losing a lot of money on this, right? So really, the test stand is the best for me. So I just went ahead and I called my friend Joe Williams. I didn't call him. I texted him on Facebook here. And I asked Joe, I said, so Joe, what does it cost? Because Joe's been dynoing a lot of engines on his channel. Go to YouTube, Just Mopar Joe. He does a lot of great engine builds. And he started going to a place up there in Arkansas that does a lot of the dyno sessions for him. And I think what Joe said, I think somewhere around $850 to $950, and you get unlimited runs with that. What Joe does, he does a lot higher end engine builds than I do. When I say higher end, I'm going to say that higher horsepower setups, you know, people that are actually drag racing their cars, right? So he does a lot of R&D, and I would say it's very cost effective for what he's doing. I would say most of my customers that want their engine built, they don't really need, I mean, they would like to know what that engine would make on a dyno. Sorry, my lights are off and I don't feel like going over there to the other part of the shop, but they would like to know, you know, what that engine made, but for, you know, almost $1,000, it's not really necessary. They said, nah, just go ahead and tune it when it's in the car. So really, I guess, again, it gets back to cost effectiveness, right? If you're really kind of a small time guy like I am, like we are here, really it's not cost effective to have a dyno. Now, if that customer wants to take that engine to have it dynoed, I'm all for that, man. I really encourage that, actually. I'd like to know what a lot of these engines would build, right? What I have to do is I have to kind of just go over what the proven recipes are and what I see, and then how the engine runs in the car. You know, when I build these engines, I do go out and, you know, I don't abuse them, but I will put my foot into them, and I'll go ahead and see if I can get anything really to break. You know, if it was a newer car, you know, you're gonna go out and drive it and try it out, right? So the best thing you can go on is kind of a guesstimate. You know, I mean, what I have to do is I'll go in and kind of go with what the heads flow and the cam specs and talk to people that build these combinations and have dynoed them and get pretty close, right? I mean, this Gen 3 engine here, it's a very solid combination that's been proven on several dyno sessions. I would say anywhere in the 630 to 650 horsepower range. But now, you know, that depends if I built it right. Did I degree the cam properly? Did I do everything that I needed to do? So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, this engine makes 645 horsepower. No, I'm not going to say that, but I've got a pretty good ballpark guess of what that thing will make. Just like with this engine here, you know, guessing what the horsepower is, I would guess with the intake manifold that it's going to have, it's probably going to be around 375 horsepower. If Glenn ever changes the intake, it's probably going to be a 400 horsepower engine. But anyway, back to the test stand and the dyno. So really, it comes down to, you know, what do you want to spend your money? It's all about the money game. And, you know, you look at guys like Nick's Garage, you know, he's had that dyno in there for a long time. He does a lot of engine builds, both on and off camera. So I'm sure it's paid for itself a long time ago. But for me, no, I don't really think it's cost effective for me. Now, would I like to have a dyno? You bet I would. You bet I would. But if you don't have a dyno or you do a lot of engines, I'm going to tell you right now, a test stand is the second best thing by far, obviously. There's only two choices, but it is a very, very effective tool. And you can make it more effective. You know, the more sensors and the more gauge points you have, the more effective it's going to be. So anyway, just thought I'd share this with everybody. Test stand versus dyno. What is best for you? It comes down to the money. So hope everybody has a good day.